We're here with the candidates for Lake County Commission in District 2. I'd like to thank you all for coming in and ask you to take just one moment to, since we are taping this entire thing, to introduce yourselves, and I would beg you in this instance and in all instances here to be as concise as possible because we have limited time, and we do want to give everybody a chance and have enough time for a good number of questions and touch on a lot of issues. So if you could say who you are and basically what you do for a living.
Okay. My name is Sean Parks. I live in Montverde. I have a beautiful family, three children. I'm a environmental consultant and land use planner professionally.
Okay.
I'm Elaine Renick, and I'm the current county commissioner. And before that, I was a teacher and school psychologist.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Mark Saunders. I'm a successful businessman in Lake County, and I manage properties.
Okay.
My name is David Yeager. I own a company called Environmental Management and Incident Management, and I live in Mineola. And I was currently the mayor for 4 years.
You were the mayor for 4 years.
Yes, sir.
You're no longer mayor.
No, sir. I'm on absence right now.
I should also add that this is a group of just Republicans, and it's a winner-take-all as far as the primary is concerned. However, it will go to the general election because there is a write-in candidate, which is not unusual in these primaries, unfortunately. Does anybody happen to know, I wonder, the write-in candidate, Mr. Shamey, I think is his name? Anybody know him?
No, sir.
I actually know of him, yes.
Oh, okay. Is he, do you know whether he's a Republican or a Democrat? Or
I couldn't tell you. I haven't spent extensive time talking to him.
So. Okay. And this is not the first run for political office. I know on your part and Mr. Yeager's part. How about you? Is this your first time running for office?
No, I was actually elected to the Lake County Water Authority Board of Trustees in 2004.
Okay. And how about you? Your first run?
Yes.
It is?
Yes.
Okay, very well.
Well, excuse me.
I haven't.
I'm sorry,
Oh, go ahead.
but he wasn't finished. He ran for office 2 years ago.
And that's
Oh,
true.
sorry.
I did run in 2008. That's true.
For
a county commission.
County commission. All right, thank you.
And I was on the council of Mineola for 6 years, 2 as a council person and 4 as a mayor.
Okay. Okay, well, why don't we start off with the fairly predictable but sometimes revealing question, which will apply to 3 of you. And why don't we start with Mr. Yeager? What got you motivated to run for this office?
One day someone knocked on my door and asked me if I would like to become a mayor. And I ran the first time, lost by 37 votes. And it was got put on council. And it's just incredible public service will do for you to make a difference at the end of the day.
I'm talking about this particular office.
This one to make a difference, to be county-wide and to run. We have a short time in our lifespan, and I want to make a difference, and I've done such a difference in our South Lake County and Mineola, and I want to do that in Lake County.
Well, when you say you want to make a difference, it would probably be helpful if you could be a little more specific. In what regard do you want to make a difference? Is there some particular issue that you feel like you can have an impact on or change, or maybe you could elaborate?
Yes, sir. Economic development would be one. I believe we are a bedroom community, and we should be a destination for people to visit. 2, I think we need to really decide what we're going to do with our governments, and I'm a big proponent of Unigov. That's to bring all the municipalities together in the county, and let's see if we can combine some of the services, because we seem to duplicate 14 times in the 14 cities in the county itself. So I'm a big proponent of Unigov. It's happened in Indiana, and there's a Metro Unigov system in Jacksonville that works quite well.
Okay. Jacksonville, of course, consolidated all of its governments into one big government, I think, with maybe one or 2 exceptions of small places. Is that what you're proposing in Lake County? You're just proposing that certain services be consolidated, but that the individual cities remain intact?
I think you need to do baby steps. I think there's quite a repetition of services. For instance, Lake County takes care of all the traffic lights. Wouldn't it make sense for them to take care of all the signs, take care of all the road projects, because I can tell you if Lake County has 150 road projects out for bid and a city has one, the contractor would be easier to work with Lake County and probably give them a better deal. And it just makes sense why you have to have 14 engineers to combine the services and make a difference. I believe what we have now is bad behavior. Everybody's doing their own little thing, and no one's looking at the bigger picture.
Okay, very well. Mr. Saunders,
Yes.
Can you talk about why you decided to run for this office?
Absolutely. I'm running because I want to help the people of Lake County. We're hurting. Lake County's hurting. Our unemployment has quadrupled in 4 years. It's gone from 3% to almost 12%, and it's just a sad situation. It doesn't have to be that way. I think we can do a better job, and that's why I've decided to run and do that.
Okay, well, let me follow up as I did with
Sure.
Mr. Yeager. You pointed out that the unemployment rate has gone from 3% to 12%, but are you suggesting this is a condition that's peculiar to Lake County, or is this not to some degree the same thing that most counties in Florida are experiencing?
It's just a dramatic increase, and it doesn't have to be that way. We can do better. We have a beautiful county, beautiful destination, beautiful road, beautiful people, everything. We have so much potential. We just have to get business going in Lake County. When we get business going, we can create tax revenue. If we can create tax revenue, then we can not create any new taxes or fees for the people of Lake County. They can't afford anymore. They can't afford the mismanagement of government that's been going on. So we can do a better job. I've been doing that for 25 years in the business world. I'm ready to bring it to you, the people of Lake County.
Okay. Well, let me again follow up. Every county, every city in Florida wants to get business back on its feet.
Sure.
What specifically would you do to accomplish that?
Well, specifically, I have a 10-point business plan to create jobs and economic prosperity. You can see on my website, marksaunderscampaign.com. But the biggest thing that is in there that we deal with to bring businesses in Lake County will be impact fee waivers that are targeted, okay, for existing buildings that are abandoned. If a business moves in there, I propose we give them a 100% impact fee waiver. If they move into one of our job centers that we have throughout the county, some don't even have any buildings there, we would give them a 100% waiver. And then all other businesses that would move into Lake County or start, we would give them a 50% impact fee waiver. This will jumpstart our economy and get tax revenues from businesses going. We have to do this. We cannot sustain the taxes from just homes. It's not going to work.
Well, of course, the problems with the economy are pretty complex and have a lot to do with things that local government, far beyond local government's control. And there are some places in Florida that have minimal impact fees, and
right, exactly.
Nobody is, but they're not really much better off. So I'm just trying to press for how you think that waiving impact fees would have that much of an effect on the economy when where is there proof that this is working anywhere else in these current conditions?
It's working in our neighbor county to our west, Sumter County. Okay. They're booming.
What's going on in Sumter County?
Business is booming.
Okay.
They're not increasing taxes. They haven't, So this is the model that we want. We're in competition with them. Why should somebody bring a business to Lake County when they can go 20 miles to our west and there's no impact fees? So they're moving into Sumter County. They're moving into Alabama. They're moving into Georgia. We're in competition. We're in an economic recession. If we continue down this path, we're going to go into depression. We've got to change the course.
Is Sumter County, do you have any idea if are they handing out a lot of permits? Are they getting a lot of requests for construction?
Yes, absolutely.
Is that right?
Ingenious ideas, great teamwork over there, and of course they understand the principle, just like the city of Tavares and the city of Leesburg have got the revelation. Tavares was the first city to waive impact fees. They are booming. Leesburg just waived their impact fees. They are in the worst depression of any city in Lake County. It's Leesburg. They just waived all impact fees. And things are going to turn around. It's going to take about 2 years. But after 2 years, that tax revenue would be generated. It's in arrears. That means it takes about a year to actually get the money, and things will begin to move up. And in the following 2 years, we'll be moving up progressively. So rebounding very well, getting our unemployment back down, getting our crime rates back down, getting things rolling again in Lake County, and making it a great place to work and play and live.
Do you happen to know what the unemployment rate in Sumter County is?
I do not know the exact figure.
Okay.
But it's lower than ours.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, Ms. Renick, the question is a little different for you. I guess to the extent to ask why it is you're seeking another term, and maybe as these first two folks had a chance to do, you can tell us what's on your plate, what you have planned.
Well, I am running again because I am afraid that, and I don't know how to say this I don't mean to be insulting or whatever, but just as some of the things Mr. Saunders said, I think that there are people because of the bad economy, there are people jumping at the chance that I think to change things, to do things differently, but it might be short-term success but long-term failure. And that's what I'm worried about. The case of impact fees, I think, is a perfect example. We did lift the impact fees in Lake County. I did not vote to lift the impact fees. I actually had a different suggestion for forgiving the first 100,000, which I thought might be a small stimulus for smaller businesses. But to just give you an example of how it does not make the huge difference that Mr. Saunders is suggesting, is that in the city of Claremont, there was a Sam's Club that was planning to move in. They had their approvals, and even with forgiving the $750,000 in impact fees, they changed their mind and they did not go forward. Impact fees did not make the decision. They make their decision based on where the market is, and when you have a huge big box that causes, and I'll just use transportation impact fees, when you have a business that would cause such huge impact, and that's what we're talking about here. It's not just an arbitrary number, it's the impact they create. That $750,000, if Sam's Club had gone forward, that burden would have been put on the taxpayers. And so I don't know how you just lift all impact fees. And I would like to correct some, I think, misinformation. The impact fee is paid at the time that the building is built. So I don't know what Mr. Saunders says when he's talking about suggesting that when a new business moves in that they would not have to pay that impact fee. It was paid when the building was built.
Okay, well, let me follow up with you though. If impact fees are not the panacea, you believe they're not lifting them. What do you have in mind to put people back to work in Lake County and to create a climate where businesses feel like they could either locate or grow there?
Well, I think that we have been doing a number of things in terms of being business friendly, from small things. Well, for example, one of the things as far as developments, there were situations where businesses, they were both required to do a buffer between the properties. When that wasn't necessary, you could just have the one buffer and it would be a savings for business. There have been a number of little things like that have been changed, and we have made an effort in a number of ways to have staff relook at how they, as far as doing the process, so that all businesses get a better shot. I think the county used to be maybe in a rut, used the same people a lot, things didn't go out to bid as often as they do now, and there's more opportunities, I think, for Lake County. But in general, I really think that there's this feeling that somehow that the county government is going to fill foreclosed homes and bring all the businesses in. I think the most important thing that we do is that we create a quality of life so that when the economy gets better, it is not just Lake County. We all know it's Florida, it's the nation, it's the global economy. But as things start to improve, if we have protected our quality of life, we're going to be we're going to have a problem, because people want to locate where their families want to live. But we have done a number of things, but again, it's been with federal dollars. We've created jobs through transportation and energy grants that we had, and that type of thing. And then each individual commissioner, and this isn't something that people see on a day-to-day basis, because commissioners have a lot of responsibilities behind the scenes, not just the meetings on Tuesday mornings. But each commissioner meets with businesses that are looking to locate here to answer any questions. Their questions are always about quality of life. First question is always about schools. And then we also meet with existing businesses to see how we can help them grow and what the county can do to help them, and we kind of have a...
Okay, well, let me stop you, because I did have one more follow-up before I moved on to Mr. Parks, but I wouldn't presume to speak for anybody here at this table, but I suspect that when you say that you all have taken some small steps to try to improve the economy, that there might be an argument made that boldness is what's needed. So do you have anything in mind that would really kind of get things moving in a quicker fashion, that would create some sort of atmosphere or set of conditions where businesses would want to expand or hire or relocate?
Well, again, I think if you had, for the smaller businesses, if you had lifted the first 100 of the impact fees, that might have been a small boost there. But no, I don't have any bold plan, because whenever I hear people say, well, we need more incentives, or we need this, or we need that, that's at the cost of the taxpayer, because we don't have the money to do a lot of things that people may be suggesting. I think government's role, besides protecting the quality of life, is to keep government small and as lean, and taxes down, so that businesses can realize that they will have a smaller tax burden, and I think that's government's role.
Okay, Mr. Parks, your turn.
Okay. Well,
do you remember the question after all this
I think
time?
so. It's
Okay.
it's essentially why do I want to?
Why you're running, and
Okay.
Obviously it evolves a little bit into sort of what's on your mind as far as what you'd like to accomplish.
Okay. Well, I'm a Central Florida native. I grew up in scouting, and I'm an Eagle Scout. I've had public service and getting involved with the community ingrained in me at an early age. I got involved with the Water Authority. I've donated, given a lot of hours of my time on volunteer boards the 12 years that I've lived in Lake County. Those issues are very important to me. I think that I have some professional experience and business experience combined, both in quality of life issues that I think that are valuable, that I can bring to the table, specifically to serve the public as county commissioner. I'm concerned about one particular issue, and that is the tax burden that's on Lake County citizens as being 71%. Some will say that's actually an 80-20.
What do you mean 71%?
71% of the tax burden, the percentage of the 71% of all taxes collected to support the operations is reliant solely upon those of us that own homes in Lake County.
As opposed to businesses.
As opposed to business, right. Business is about 20
so
to 22.
So the ratio is
right.
you uncomfortable.
Correct. Now, in Orange County, for instance, it's about 50%. It's more of a 50-50 ratio. That's of concern for me. I do have 3 kids, so I'm worried about. To me, Lake County is the kind of the vision is the opportunity to have generation after generation stay in Lake County and grow in Lake County, if that is possible, if they so choose. And so what's important to that is having opportunity for jobs. I've seen people go off to work different counties. I used to drive to Orange County. I was one of those 60% of our workforce people that drove to a different county for employment. That's of concern to me. I am looking for more bold steps. Quality of life issues are extremely important to me, and I actually will. I definitely commend Commissioner Renick for her quality of life stance on a lot of these issues. So they are important to me. But I don't think that we can rest entirely upon, well, we have some good quality of life issues, the jobs will come. There's some great incentives programs in the county that have been initiated. I think there's one opportunity to go a step further, at least needs to be looked at, and that's a tax abatements for specific industries such as alternative energy, solar, biofuels.
What do you mean by a tax abatement? Are you talking about like forgiving
Well,
property taxes for a certain amount of time?
It's through a gradated period of time, yes. Over 3 years, zero taxes the first year, 50% the next year, 100% the third year. Some kind of formula that could be agreed upon. Now, ultimately, the voters will decide on that.
But for particular types of industries?
Only for certain industries, yeah. And they would have to be very, I want to make it very clear, it has to be documentable that that's what they need. That's the final step to get this business. Again, there's a lot of good incentives that we have. A lot of other counties can throw out and match those incentives. But I think part of that is the relational aspect of building business and saying, hey, we want you here, we're going to do everything we can, in particular with those industries, not housing. It's not about housing, and again, that's the imbalance that we have. It's about getting these higher wage jobs into the county. They're short term. Yeah, you've heard about impact fees. The transportation impact fees have been waived. And I think that's a good step. I certainly would support another 1 year suspension on that until we see how it works and how it's improving actual business in the county. I think there's a streamlined permitting that people talk about. The county and the cities are working on that. What I want to see specifically would be something that's very interactive on the computer between the county and the cities working together to make this very interactive program or access to the computer where people can come and get simple questions answered, like where do I go to get a particular license or something for the business that I'm starting, or what do I need to do to get a comprehensive land use change, something as complex.
Are you saying the county doesn't currently provide that information online?
No, they do provide some of that online, but it's not as simplified. I've had businesses, people that are involved in business, come to me and say, who do I call? I mean, it's a little unclear. There's some uncertainty here. There are people in the county that are working very hard to try to make it more clear. I think maybe one thing that we could do from the top is to give that direction to. And if it requires maybe some funding, and again, this is something we all have to agree on, the cities and the county, is to go after this interactive program that would make it easier. But there's also long-term. There's some long-term issues as well. I think we have a wonderful opportunity right now to create what I call go teams, and those are individuals that are. There are teams of people that are business professionals that would go out and help the commissioners, help the staff recruit business, and help the ones that are currently here trying to grow as well.
Okay.
So,
Sir, could I respond?
Well, we don't, as
Okay.
I said, we don't really want to do this in a debate
except
format.
that he knows that we've already worked on that.
Okay, well,
I just disagree a little bit.
okay. I don't know if we'll be able to resolve all those things here,
Sure.
but let's go on to another question. Of course, I don't live in Lake County, but I'm fully aware that growth is a big issue, and I've done a little reading on your positions, and you all seem to feel a little differently about your philosophy. Ms. Renick, why don't we start with you? You were elected about 4 years ago, along with another commissioner. On the issue of growth, or at least that's believed to be the case. So can you talk for a minute about maybe, and again I'd beg conciseness as much as possible from everyone, but maybe talk a little about your philosophy and how you've implemented that since you were elected as far as growth is concerned.
Well, actually, the economy took care of it for us. What few projects that we have had come before us, it was still to make sure that they were outside the cities, the municipalities, where there were central utilities, and we haven't really had any housing projects come through, so we didn't get much of a chance to do that. My philosophy is still the same. When you talk about the imbalance between residential and commercial, that was one of the things that I ran on, because we were relying on home building as our sole economic engine, and I think it was a huge mistake. Obviously, I still feel the same way. We still need to direct growth to the cities and stay out of the rural areas and protect the environmentally sensitive areas, and try and I will stay on that same path.
Okay, and one thing I just wanted to ask about too, since you were involved in it, but you all recently finished some changes to your growth plan for the county and sent it up to Tallahassee, I think. These growth plans are kind of impenetrable, I think, for some people to understand, but is there a simple way to characterize what you did to this plan that made it different from what you had in place before?
Well, I do think as far as looking at the two big jewels in Lake County, the Wekiva and the Green Swamp, we did add a number of extra protections for those areas. I think there's a misconception out there that it is somehow something new and huge and unwieldy, and it's actually only about 7 to 10 pages longer than other comp plans that didn't even have to deal, other counties that didn't have to deal with those particular environmental issues. But it's just it's a map for our future growth. We just couldn't keep going on the way we were, and that basically was plopping things down in the middle of the rural areas. So it directs it towards the cities, directs it towards our road corridors, and
okay. So if I were to look at that map, I'd see that you all have designated places for growth to be around the cities, and the rural areas that are far from cities are to remain in some sort of rural.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Mr. Saunders, what about growth? And maybe you can comment on the growth plan. I don't know if you've seen it, but if you have, or if you're familiar with it, maybe comment on the quality of it.
Absolutely. I bring a balanced approach to growth management, and that's what we need. We can't be one side or the other. We can't be an extreme or another. We can't be an environmentalist. We can't be, super pro growth. We have to have balance. Now, what I mean by that, part of my principles, 2 of them are protecting our natural resources. The second one is retaining our rural charm. I'm from Orange County. I grew up here in Orlando. We don't want Lake County to be like that. Tavares, Eustis, Altoona, Groveland, all these little towns have a distinctive rural charm to them. We're going to retain that. So the thing is, it seems that most people think they're mutually exclusive. It's either growth or we protect our resources. They're not mutually exclusive. We can do both, and we can do both well if we plan it. That's why my emphasis is in infilling our existing buildings, and also driving people into the commercial centers. We've got to jumpstart it. We can review it after a year. We see what works, and then we continue to move forward. It's not too fast. It's the way to get things going, and then we'll just continue to move on.
Okay, well let me ask you a question. And before the housing market melted down sometime around 2007, or I guess maybe a little bit earlier than that, do you think that Lake County was on the right course? Were you happy with the decisions that were being made by the county commission as far as the decisions they were making on development?
You're asking me about the prior commission?
Yes, I am. I mean, if you've been in Lake County a while,
2004.
Sure, you've been observing. You've been observing what they. I'm sure you've been paying close attention to it. Do you think they were making the right decisions?
I think it had gotten a little out of hand, and I think there was a backlash, and I think that's why the pendulum shifted. It seemed to be so pro growth, and then it shifted to the left with Elaine, going back to environmentalism, which was no growth. I mean, that's her platform. And so, basically, yeah, it was too much, and so I didn't like what I was seeing.
Can you name a particular development that got
Claremont,
that you were
where she was the city commissioner? Claremont. I mean, it's the poster child for ugly growth. We don't want the rest of Lake County to look like that. So that's what I'm trying to prevent and have balance. So yeah, it switched. That's why we need me. As somebody with a balanced perspective, who's not one into the other, who's not owned by special interest groups, and is going to do what they say and then do the same thing they did before in 2004.
Have you had a chance to look at the comp plan? Do you have
Absolutely.
any thoughts? Okay, let's.
My thoughts are, I think they've done. They've worked really hard on it. It's taken 6 years. I think a lot of thought has been put into it, a lot of work, and to me, my impression is it's it's a little restrictive, but I like that. I'd rather be on the restrictive side and be safe and protect the things that we have and go forward. Listen, I'm not for rural sprawl. You know, I believe in centralized cities, and I believe in job centers. So these are the things that we want to have. So I think it's a document I can work with, and I will work with it. If it passes the DCA, and then I will work with that and use that as a blueprint for our growth for the next 20 years.
Okay. Mr. Yeager, how about you?
Which part would you like me to answer?
Well, there were the basic question that had to do with soliciting your philosophy on growth, and then I also wondered if you'd paid attention to the new comp plan, and if you had any thoughts on whether it was a good document or anything wrong with it.
My position on growth, I was back in 2002 when things were going wild, and I remember we used to have a full audience inside of our council chambers. Made some hard decisions for good growth and good planning. In my 4 years, we annexed over 4,000 acres. We did about 90 house permits, and what we did is we made sure we had master plans in all the neighborhoods connected. We had 1,600,000 square feet of industrial. We had Class A. We had a turnpike entrance. Before Commissioner Renick was in office, what you had incredible stamp it and let it go in South Lake County. And that's what got Commissioner Renick into office, because enough was enough. That was the 3 Ps, positively poor planning. Everything had a wall, everything didn't fit, and we just threw it up as fast as we could. I took a different approach, and I got criticized a lot about it. But I took an approach that if you have one of your children that's 16, you just don't give up to them and send them back until they're 25. What you do is you embrace growth, you make it work for you, and consistently what we did is we got free school sites, we got free firehouses, we got free interchange, and you made the developers be part of the problem. The solution, I apologize, part of the solution, not the problem. What you had in South Lake County was just everybody doing what they want to do, and then they got their money and ran out of the county. Well, that's not how I wanted to play. And I wanted to make sure that if they're going to come into Lake County or into Mineola, that they are part of the solution to make it happen.
Okay, so you were first elected to office in what year?
They put me on the council back in 2000, and then I went back in 2005 and then 2007 as mayor.
Okay, so if people were to look back on your city's growth between the time you got in office and the time you left office, would everyone agree that the city's growth was responsible and
well, the numbers show that. The numbers show when I did my first subdivision down there that had $1 million recreation site for free to the city, and it was the first time Lake County ever got a school site free with $200,000 cash. And in that time limit, we had 90 house permits because it was planned, but nothing was starting. And yes, if they look back at my record, I can stand on it that I made a difference. And you know, you have all these people say what we're going to do. Already been there, already done that. And I made responsible decisions, not because it benefited anybody. It's because it was the way to do a master plan acceptable for our region.
Okay, Mr. Parks.
Okay.
You forgot the comp plan part, but
Oh.
Well, maybe you did. You're the one who stopped, so go ahead.
But yeah, and I have really, you know, two things.
Mm-hmm.
There are property rights. I get that, and people need to have property rights. I don't think the commission did anything bad. A matter of fact, if you look at our master plan in Mineola that we started back in 2000, it's right along. We did exactly what they basically did right now with the comp plan. So I don't think there's a bad thing there.
Okay, you're pleased with it then. All right, very well.
Okay. My stance on growth, I guess, my philosophy is, you know, growth is it's a balance of people, economy, environment. All those issues have to be balanced out. You know, from my professional background, when I look at you know, development approvals or what kind of development's good, you know, I look at some things like internal rate of capture for traffic. You know, how much traffic is going to be kept within a development, or is it going to have to go off-site and be you know, have some kind of a regional impact. I also, you know, I look for the balance of mixed uses, and you know, quite frankly, will it create jobs? What's the fiscal burden going to be on the county? What's the economic benefit going to be? And I think that's definitely fair to ask those questions and make sure that you're getting good data from somebody that's going to be doing a development. There have been problems. There are, everybody in this room can point out problems with growth management gone wrong, very wrong in Lake County. Concurrency that was never followed up upon. Plans, quite frankly, plans that were never put in place. I think at the time when the freezes happened in Lake County, there were many people that lost livelihoods overnight, and they were frantic and wanted to do something. I don't fault them for that, because there's a lot that those people lost. I think we missed the opportunity to plan large parts of the area around Claremont and South Lake, and we're showing for that now. So I'm all for planning and asking the tough questions as we move into the future. As far as the comp plan goes, I think there's many good many good parts to the comp plan. I think it definitely has gone a long way to protect the two things that Lake County are known for, of course, Green Swamp and Wekiva-Ocala connection, and there are some rural areas still in Lake County, and it does have gone a long way to protect those. I think my only issue with the comp plan is essentially what was done at the very end with this planning area that was placed at the last minute on a large portion of South Lake County. I disagree. I think the advertising for that was not done correctly. The advertisement, and quite, to give you some specifics, basically at the adoption hearing, at the last minute, one of the commissioners brought up Commissioner Renick brought up this proposed planning area or strategic planning area. I'm not sure exactly what it was even called, but to be put over a large portion of South Lake, and I think you had some very angry landowners because it was done essentially the day of the adoption, and that specific issue was not advertised. Well, yes, the meeting was advertised legally, and we understand that, and that part was fulfilled. But I think that in the essence of good planning, you want the other party, the landowners that are part of this, you want them to be part of the system and not feel like they were hurt in some way.
What did this planning area do?
Well, essentially, it put the big criteria part of it was to put a 60% net open space requirement on it. Which, loosely defined, maybe that's good. It just depends on how that's defined.
Oh, okay. So is your beef with that particular provision, or is it with that you didn't think there was enough time to talk about?
No, my biggest beef is definitely that I didn't think there was enough particular time.
Okay, but looking at it, setting that aside for a minute, and just looking at the provision itself, is it a good idea or a bad idea?
Yeah, open space is definitely a good idea.
So the 60%, you okay with that?
It depends on how it's applied. Yes.
I don't know what that means.
Well, I mean, if it's applied to an individual lot, that's a lot. If it's applied to applied to the whole area, that's better. Yeah, that's more accessible.
When you first started,
acceptable.
Okay, all right. When you first started talking about growth, you mentioned the need for balance, but there was a recent forum, and I wasn't there, so I don't know if this summary of it is correct or not. But you said that protecting private property rights is 90% important in making decisions about land planning. Can you explain that and
Sure.
explain how that fits into your concept of having a balance?
Yeah, absolutely.
So 90% is a pretty big balance.
Well, property rights is that's what it's in our foundation of our country. I mean, the right to pursue life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. I mean, the founding fathers of our country meant that it was okay to own land and to have that land and profit from it. And so, I want 90%, meaning yes, that we have to look at their property rights, and they're going to be able to do. They should have the right to be able to do something with that land.
Okay, but if their land is
now, it doesn't give them the right to I think I made that very clear also at that forum, that to pollute somebody else's property and affect their property rights as well. I think I think that is in a lot of the rules and regulations that we have in place now already protect that.
Okay, but I guess just a simple scenario, if somebody has a big piece of agricultural property, they bought it, and it was agricultural, it's always been agricultural, and they want to build houses there, do you believe that property right trumps the local authorities' ability to say no to that housing project?
Well, I go back to what my previous answer was, and if they're able to justify a need for it, fiscal, and there's a fiscal analysis that's been done, and it's done appropriate, and we're selective, and it meets, what an important issue for me is mixed use. If there's a mixed use component to it, if it's not going to create traffic problems, then yes. But they will go through that criteria, and I think that was rubber stamped in the past, as some people has mentioned. I would definitely agree with that. I think we, by all means, need to be more selective in what we do.
Do you believe that need should be a component of someone in a county commissioner making a land use decision?
I think the needs assessment that I'm familiar with, what I talk about from the DCA, Department of Community Affairs, as it applies to land use change, I think that's very appropriate to go through the needs assessment or needs analysis. Yes.
Okay. Okay, let's, if we can talk for a second about the county's budget for the next budget. You're in a budget year. You'll have to do another budget next year. And what I'm hoping to find out is, I'm assuming that like most every other government in this area and everywhere practically, that it'll be a difficult budget year. And so I'm trying to, hoping to find out what sort of ideas you have to make your government work better, to make it be more efficient, and if you think there's waste in there, where that is and how it would be cut. Mr. Saunders, why don't we start with you this time?
Sure.
And we'll go back the other way.
Well, a projected tax revenue shortfall that we're going to have, the numbers floated around, but now they're saying it's about $8 million in their next budget. So we have to continue to tighten the belt. Government is overspending. Government is too big. I'm a conservative Republican. I believe in less taxes, less government. So we have to tighten the belt. Now I have it's a simple, formula, but I think it's a fair formula, and it's an across-the-board cut of 5%. But obviously, depending on what the number is, if we need less money, we can do maybe 3.7, whatever it is, maybe 2.5, depending on the shortfall. But the point is, we do it equitably across the board in all departments. We go to the department head and say, guys, you make the necessary cuts, and bring this, back to the table. This is what we have to do, because we don't want to be like California. We don't want to go bankrupt. We don't want to have furloughs, and we want. This is such a key, okay? Because right now, because of their mismanagement, they're dipping into the reserves. So what we have to do is provide a stable environment for businesses to come into. They're not going to come into Lake County with the circus type environment we've been under for the last 4 years, okay? Where we're threatening to close our libraries and all this jazz. It's mismanagement. There's red flags everywhere. So what we have to do is get this thing squared up, balance it, provide a stable environment, and then invite them to come in, let them know we are business friendly and we're ready to do business, and we're talking bottom line.
Okay.
With the impact fee waivers, of course.
A 5% across the board cut. So you're talking.
That's a proposal. Sure.
Okay, but right, I understand.
Sure.
But you're talking then about
5 cents on the dollar.
Sheriff department. You're talking about fire department.
Sheriff is a unique entity. He obviously we proposed it just like in Orange County. Rich Crotty proposed 7% cut, and they eventually worked out a 3% cut with Val Demings. So that's how that worked out, and that's how it'll probably work out with us. Okay, everybody needs to make a sacrifice. Okay, to make this work. It's just sheriffs and elected officials. So, these are things we'll be able to work out.
I understand. The question is whether this sacrifice ought to be 5%.
Well, this is it, Mike. We're all going to have to make a sacrifice and work as a team to get this done. And like I said, it's going to take a couple years. It's going to be a challenge for a couple years. But once we get that tax revenue generated, okay, things are going to start going up, and then we'll be able to give those wage increases that the police want, the fire department want, things will begin to boom again, and that's what we need to do.
Okay. But I guess what I was getting at was maybe
Mm-hmm.
the idea of across-the-board cuts.
Mm-hmm. It's fair and equitable.
Well, it's fair, but you know, there is an argument when it comes to across-the-board cuts
Mm-hmm.
that some departments are fatter than others,
Mm-hmm.
and so you end up punishing the departments that are lean and rewarding the ones that might not be as lean. So how do you deal with that? I mean,
We're a team. We're a family. And it's a county. And what we're going to do, I'm not going to take 13% from you and 2% from her. That's not fair. Okay? It's 5 cents on the dollar. Come on.
but might
you get
you
to keep 95
might you
cents.
be rewarding inefficiency though if you have a department that's just not working
We
very
have
well?
to get these numbers right. Okay?
Okay.
So this is what it's, and like I said, I don't think it's going to be 5%. It's probably going to be maybe 3.7. So it's even less. Okay? So don't everybody get alarmed. But listen, we have to be more efficient as a government. There is some fat in there. So find it, let's get it out, and let's move forward.
Okay, Mr. Yeager, your ideas about the county's budget and how you would go about resolving any problems with it.
I do some work for the Turnpike Enterprise, and the Turnpike Enterprise is a DOT, but it's its own enterprise. And what the Turnpike does is they have a core group of DOT people, and everything else is outsourced. And when you do it that way, when times are good, you bring the people in. When they're bad, you move them out. They have to do it that way because they don't get any funding from the state. They get it from toll revenue only. The way government operates now, and you know, I love all these people that are businessmen, we're going to run it like a business. Well, they have obviously not been in government. It's like going to Savannah, takes 4.5 hours or 3.5 hours to get there. You do it in government, it takes you 3 weeks. So what you have to do is work through that process. But again, you need to consolidate it that way. As government, as things are good, you can expand it. As they're bad, you can outsource. It makes sense. The Turnpike does it all the time. The regular DOT doesn't do that. They don't do that at all. So they're not efficient at all. So that works. The other thing is the Unigov. You need to do that. You need to define what county government's really going to be and do Unigov and go to the city and say, okay, we can do this better than you can. Let's work together.
Okay. Let me go back because I think I maybe missed the when you're talking about how the Turnpike Enterprise works. Can you more closely relate that to as far as what the manner in which you would want to see Lake County government working? Because I'm not sure I see the connection there.
Well, the connection is Lake County government, good or bad, keeps the same staff and it's still fat.
Okay.
And when they need more money, they come to my pocket to get it. Okay. So what I'm saying though, if you make a small core government and you outsource it to businesses or consultants, that way you can adjust and it never has to come back on the taxpayer. You adjust as you go. Okay. Let me tell you, if you had that same core deal as the Turnpike right now, we wouldn't have an issue because we would adjust it. Does that make any sense
well,
to you?
A little bit, but I guess if you get elected and you go into next year and they've got, you know, you've got, I think you said $8 million and you're staring at that much that you have to cut from your budget. It sounds like some of the things you're proposing might be sort of long-term solutions. So I guess what I'm trying to get at, or maybe they're not, but I'm trying to get at whether or not you see some immediate ways to deal with the county's budget problems. I mean, do you, in your experience, can you think of any departments in county government that look to you like they just are kind of fat and ought to be slimmer?
Well, I think the problem is the whole government's fat. We've had bad behavior forever. You know, why do you have to have a county fire engine right next to Claremont with their engine? Why do you have to do that? You're not going to. It's not about taking jobs away. It's about bringing your resources and moving them to where they fit and they're cost effective. Why would you duplicate everything? So if you do that in the fire department and you do that in public works, and if you assist cities and say, you know what, we have an engineering staff, we can assist you and we can save you money and keep a small core of people, that makes sense. what we've done forever, and this is probably the best time in our history. This is great because this has bring us to reality. If in my business, just because I want another truck, I can't say to the customer, I'm going to charge you double now because I want more. So I bring back to a smaller core of people, and every department needs to be looked at that. And every department, you have to manage it that way. And then when things get good again, it's fine. It hasn't worked that way. Every government is having layoffs and cutbacks and trying to find the money because they're poorly run. And it's consistent all over Florida.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Parks, how about you?
Okay,
budget question.
Regarding budget, I think the first thing to do, if I'm honored to win county commissioner, is I'm going to look for an efficiency audit, not a financial audit that's done through clerk of courts, their clerk of courts person, but I'm going to be looking for the commission. And of course, I'm only one of 5, but would only be one of 5. But somebody to hire somebody from the outside that's credentialed, certified to do an efficiency audit. That's going to go in, for instance, and audit processes, how the departments interact. Are there simple things being done, like what kind of staff report, what kind of department reports are being generated at the department meetings? What metrics are they using to measure their efficiency, and are they reaching their goals? That's something that's very of interest to me. Again, that position would only, that contract would only report to the county commission. It wouldn't be anybody else. So we want to get the ugly. We want to get the ugly out there. Tell us what's bad. What do we need to do? Somebody that's independent. So that's the first thing I look for. I also look for benchmarking. There's the Florida benchmarking organization. I would look for Lake County to become greatly involved with that as well, comparing ourselves to similar counties, similar benchmarks and metrics as well. There's a whole host of them out there. We don't have to use all of them, but if we use some of them, it's certainly something to look at to measure us from day one. So that's the first thing that I look at. I think specifically in the county structure, one thing that is of interest to me, and one potential source of fat, as you call it, as you put in your question, right now if you look at the structure, you have in the Department of Public Resources, you have tourism and business relations in that department. And then you've got a whole other department over here that has community services and economic development. Well, to me, economic development, business relations of all things, and tourism should be in one department, sharing that same staff. Each of those right now, each of those departments, those divisions within that department have different staff members. Those resources could be shared a lot better if they're in one department. That's just something that doesn't make sense to me. Maybe there's some reasons for it, but that's something that I would look for right away as well.
Did you have any interest in across-the-board cuts?
No, I think across-the-board cuts it's very. I think it's very naive to say that. I think your point is quite well. That some departments might not need to be cut. Some might be very lean and running very well. Others might need to be cut more than 5%. And you are looking at a major portion of the budget is the staff. So not asking anybody to take a 5% pay cut. You've narrowed the pot of money down, the source of money even further, pretty narrowly, to make that 5% cut across the board. So, and Unigov, I think is I know that was talked about as well. I think Unigov is a great concept. That certainly I would look for Unigov aspects, sharing of resources, information technology. Lake County Department of Information Technology has a very large staff. Perhaps we could share that staff with the cities to help them save money as well. Maybe the city's got staff that we could use to integrate better. Unigov is a good concept. Unfortunately, when you go and you try to implement that countywide, you might run into problems with people, one, becoming very passionate and protective of their own local police departments, but also you have different levels of service expectations between a local police and the sheriff's department. So how are you going to account for those different levels of service if you're going to apply a flat unit of cost across the whole county? So there could be some very difficult issues in implementing pure Unigov as it's talked about in consolidation. But concepts are wonderful. We need to keep looking for that. Wholeheartedly, we need to go in that direction.
Okay.
So,
Ms. Renick.
This is a very awkward position to be in because sometimes some of the things that are saying when they're talking about past bad behavior, I hope they're not referring to the past 4 years. I understand wanting to make a point and get into office, but what we have done in the past 4 years, and we started it before the economy got bad, was to cut back. We have not raised taxes. In fact, we didn't even adopt the rollback rate, which would have been helpful. We instead.
You mean this past year? In this latest budget?
Right.
Okay.
We're in the middle of one right now.
Right.
I'm talking about last year. With the situation the way it was, that would have been to our advantage, but we didn't even do that. We haven't passed any of the costs on to our citizens during such a difficult time. And as far as staff, I mean, we have cut so many positions. We have eliminated, by reorganization, we've eliminated some of the highest paid positions. Our staff is forced to take unpaid furlough days. So everybody has had their salary cut. We are running as lean as we could possibly be, and with all of that happening, with all the cuts in revenue, our reserves are higher than they've been since 2002. So, and part of that is because we saw what was coming. We knew we needed to build up the reserves to be prepared for when things got really bad. And so now the suggestion that we can't touch the reserves, we did the across the board cuts, we did do that, but we did that like 2 years ago. We asked each department to cut, and then
how much?
I don't remember the exact how much each department cut, but it was an across the board. And then you can only do so much of that. You have to, not all departments are created equal. I don't think you want to cut public safety and not the same as you would say, you know, your information technology or something.
But who's to say there's not fat in police,
Oh, there is?
in sheriff's offices?
Oh,
I mean, sheriff here bought elephant guns one time, so you know.
No, there can be fat in any department, and I think that well, one example of where I saw a huge problem, we had in our community services department, we had an affordable housing program that when the program came up to be renewed again, and I went over that, there was no provision for recapturing of funding. In other words, we helped put people into homes and rehabbed homes, and then when they sold the home, they didn't have to pay any of that funding back, even though they sold the home and had the money from that. It was just totally forgiven. In other words, you know, a person with a normal mortgage would expect to pay back the mortgage. Well, you needed to bring that money back in, not only so that you could help more people, but to keep the program going.
Okay, but if I could ask, looking ahead though, you've recounted some of the things you've done. Looking ahead, you're going to have a probably a difficult budget year, so what are your ideas to go about dealing with that?
Well, we are going to have to use some of the reserves to get us through the rough times. That's why we built up the reserves. I mean, we have 40 million in reserves, and I like to equate that with, you know, looking at your own situation. Okay, you have a savings that you've built up to for bad times, and if you lost your job while you were looking for another job, you might have to use money from your savings account. You wouldn't say, okay, well, I'll never touch my savings. I don't know how we would tell people now that we are down to the bare minimum that we're going to sit there with 40 million in reserves and cut services. So we are going to use part of those reserves, same as you would use money from your savings account to get through a rough spot.
Okay. If I could ask you about how much, what was the operating budget for the county when you came into office versus now? Do you know?
Well, it was roughly, it was over $500,000 when I came into office, and it's
$500,000?
I mean, I'm sorry, 500 million.
Okay.
And it has been cut. It's like, I think it's 416 or something now, but the budget that most people look at, you know, when you talk about the general fund budget, it's been cut over 40%. I mean, it's just, we have whittled everything down, and so it's very, when things are being characterized as a circus and overspending, and even with the sheriff's budget, I'm going to defend that a little bit here, because, you know, some things have changed. We used to get income because we had space. and we could take prisoners from other jurisdictions, and we had an income there, and unfortunately we can't do that anymore. And they haven't had raises in 3 years.
Okay. Okay, well, the hour has flown by, but I did want to give everybody a chance to maybe mention something. I'm quite sure maybe there's something I haven't asked about that's on your mind that you'd like to talk about. But again, I would plead for maybe to keep it at a couple of minutes at the most, so we can wrap it up. So, Ms. Renick, why don't we start with you, and we'll just reverse order and end.
Okay, to just as a wrap up and or respond to something that I thought was misinformation.
Why don't you can take a couple of minutes and I guess talk about whatever it is that's on your mind.
Okay, the rural protection area in South Lake that Mr. I'm drawing a blank. Mr. Parks was talking about here. What the misunderstanding out there is that what the issue was for people is that they did not want homes, and everybody kept saying the issue was about economic development. So the compromise that we came up with is that that land could only be used for economic development and not homes. And it's interesting that they make the open space issue the big thing. Again, they don't understand. The way it was 80% open space was required. The compromise brought it down to 60%. And it isn't on the individual property, it is on the designated area, and I just wanted to clear up that misinformation.
Okay. Is that it?
Well, I wanted to be brief because I was so long before, so I was trying to make it up to you.
Well, I'm just wondering if there's any one thing that I haven't asked you about that is a big deal, a big issue to you. Is there anything you want to talk about?
Well, what I said I would do 4 years ago, I still believe the same things. I have, when we talk about growth, and it came up, I have not been no growth. Anybody can look at my record. I mean, I was elected to the Claremont City Council, which you talk about being an example of bad growth. That's why I was elected there. And I think if you look at what happened from 2000 on versus what happened before that, and what I have approved has been economic development growth and not the residential. I think if we rely on that, we're just going to repeat the same problems that we've had in the past. And I think you need to have people that are still, when the economy returns, are not going to be willing to put all our eggs in that one basket again, which is residential growth.
Okay. Mr. Parks, anything I've not asked about that you'd like to bring up?
I don't think so. Just just a real quick response to the rural protection area in the South. Nobody ever has ever talked about building more homes in those areas. I think again the big issue has been that the landowners down there were not involved in the process, having this done sort of at the last minute, which to me is just not good planning. You don't start. It's okay to start and say we want to plan an area, but oh, by the way, we're going to put this restriction down, and we have these requirements, like you can't build any major roads, so on and so forth. That's not a good place to go at when you're sitting down at the table with landowners that you want to include on the process and get the best you can for the county. We all agree that, at least I do, that we can protect the resources, the hydrology of the area. And I think most of the people that I've met recognize that landowner-wise, that want to protect that as well. So that has never been an issue about not allowing houses or anything like that down there. I think just concluding comments for me, again, it's about, I think you said it well earlier on, I think it's about being a little more bold about creating opportunities for jobs in Lake County. Government does not hand out jobs. I want to make that very clear. That's not what I'm talking about. But I think that, again, with this idea that I have about Go Teams getting businesses involved to go out there and actively help the commissioners help me recruit the kind of jobs that we want into Lake County will go a long way. These people will help. Will be very specific and say, I will help you through the permitting process.
Is that already occurring or not?
No, there's no Go Teams or that some staff members maybe do that. I'm talking about something that's very different. I'm sorry, but it's elected officials, civic organizations, a larger team that is going to go out there and be involved in recruiting of this business.
Okay.
So I just think that we need and sometimes we're going to have to invest. I think at times we're going to have to take advantage of public-private partnerships. It could be maybe some investments on infrastructure between the city and the county to make the right kind of industries happen in Lake County as well. So that's what I want to be about. I want to go out there and really fight for those jobs and fight for Lake County. So.
Okay, Mr. Yeager, any last things you'd like to say?
Yes, sir. Yeah, and the industries are not biofuel. I clean them up for a living. They blow up. So that's not something that I would like to see in my backyard. I am the bold one. I am the one that thinks out of the box. I am the one who wanted to do an indoor downhill ski slope. A lot of jokes were made. Miami's doing one for $300 million. Let me tell you what $300 million would do to Lake County. We are a destination. We have the National Training Center. We have the triathlon. We have a seaport. We have Mount Dora that has the antique market. So put heads in beds. Let's be a bedroom community that's a destination. Decide what we want to do when we grow up. I've already did economic development. I already have everything pre-planned. I already have a turnpike entrance. I already have 5 school sites. 3 of the 5 school sites are already built, and we opened a high school in 2011. So I have job experience. I think out of the box, and I'm not scared to make a decision. And I live in the district. I'm in District 2, and there's 2 people out of the 4 here that actually are government experience, and it makes a difference. Because I can tell you, when I first got in office in 2000, you can't run government like a business. It's very frustrating. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Saunders, looks like you get to go last.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Michael. It's been wonderful to be here with the Sentinel. I just want to thank everybody who's put this show on today. And I just want to conclude by just sharing why I'm uniquely qualified for this job. I'm not a politician. I'm a businessman. And that's the mix, the chemistry that we want to bring to the commission. I have 25 years business experience. I have a balanced perspective on growth, and I'm not controlled by any special interest groups. That's the thing that scares me the most. Some of these candidates are controlled by special interest groups, and I don't want to see politics as usual. I don't want to see corruption and collusion and development rubber stamped, and it would be terrible. We have to bring business back to Lake County to keep your taxes low. That's what we want to do, but we can do it well. So I'm ready and I'm willing to go to work for you, but I need your help. I need your votes. So I want to encourage you today to vote absentee. Call the Supervisor of Elections. It's 352-343-9734. Call the supervisor, go online and vote absentee today. And vote for the conservative Republican, Mark Saunders. Thank you.
Now, I do have one last question for anyone who wants to answer it, and I suppose I should have known this, but I didn't. But are county commission jobs in Lake County full-time or part-time jobs?
Full-time, if you do it right.
Well, I mean, are they not in theory, but in practice, are they supposed to be full-time positions?
Well, I don't know that anybody's designated it one way or the other, but it is a full-time position.
And how much is the annual pay?
A little over 70,000, 71 something.
And does anyone know how that's established?
By the state.
By the state. Okay, and is that because it's not a charter county? It's not. Is Lake correct?
No, we're not a charter.
It's not a charter county. I see.
And can I mention part of that that 5% cut starts with the county commissioners. I'm the only candidate who suggested a 5% pay cut for county commissioners.
Can you do that if the salary is established
it's
by
voluntary.
the state?
It's voluntary. I'll take that money.
And so you just take part of your salary and
give it right back into the general fund.
I see.
As an example, we have to lead by example.
Just for clarification, in 2005 when I ran for office, I said if I won, I wouldn't take my salary, I'd give it away to charity. I did. In 2007, I did it again. And the bottom line is, it's about serving and doing the right thing for the people we're serving and Lake County citizens.
Well, here it is 2010. Are you saying you'd give up your salary?
Yeah, it's not really a big thing.
Was that a yes?
Yeah, that'd be a yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, let's go for that.
All right. Okay, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.